Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Elevate Your Potential podcast with your host, Yousef Sahib. Today is an exciting day because it is the launch of my very first podcast episode. Our very first guest is Waliur Rahman, who is a business owner and director of one of the most successful property investment companies in South Wales. Waliur has Bangladeshi parents, and we tap into what it was like growing up in South Wales and how his parents set the standards for him to be where he is at today. Before starting his own business, he climbed to the top of the corporate ladder and worked for some large companies that we have all heard of over a 10-year period, only to find out that it wasn't all it was hyped up to be. Waliur realised that there was more to life than working every minute of every day, even though he was paid so handsomely. You can expect to hear why he chose to leave the corporate world after 10 years, what it takes to succeed working for some of the largest companies in the UK, why a six-figure salary doesn't make you happy, why self-development is so important, why all employees are replaceable, what traits do you need to succeed in the workplace, why he chose to stop trading his time for money, how he now helps others on their journey to financial freedom, and so much more. This conversation was so valuable for me, and it will be no different for you. So please let me know what you took away from the episode, and let me know in your social media stories if you're listening. If you want to support the podcast from the very start, then please hit the subscribe button. I will be working to improve the show one episode at a time, and I am thrilled to have you here. I would just like to add that this first podcast was put together with minimal time or equipment, as I just happened to be local to Waliur for a few days. We decided to do this podcast in person, and unfortunately we had many technical difficulties, which ultimately meant our camera quality was poor and our mics didn't work from the start. We also hosted the podcast in a garage on a wet and windy day, so I apologised for the noticeable background noise and less than perfect audio quality. But it's not all bad. What I can assure you is that from podcast episode number 2, we will have the production level significantly better. Nevertheless, I know you'll still not want to miss this 90 minutes of great insight. For now, let's dive into this amazing conversation I had with Waliur a few weeks back. I hope you enjoy. Well, Waliur, thank you very much for being the first guest on my podcast. It means a lot. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. In this cold, wet and windy December.
It's nice though, it's nice. Good Christmas?
Yeah, really nice. Nice time to spend a bit of time with my mum.
Nice.
So yeah, we had a very chilled, relaxing Christmas, which is what I needed. Yeah.
Cool. Right, we're just going to get straight into it. Go deep with the first question, okay? So, what does success mean to you?
Oof, what does success mean to me? Success used to mean climbing up the corporate ladder, getting the next promotion, making sure that I'm achieving my objectives, my KPIs, getting that bonus at the end of the year, and then moving up the ladder. That was success probably about 5 years ago, 4 years ago. What it means to me now is more time.
Yeah.
So, it's weird, man. I look at things completely differently now. So me having my own time with my family and my friends is so much more valuable. And now I would say having more of that, having quality time with them is what success means.
Yeah, and we'll get into why that is maybe in a few minutes. I just want to touch on one thing that I've seen, and I want you to see if you know who said this. Heritage is something that makes me proud to be British, Bristolian, and Bangladeshi. I can't help but think of the struggles my father went through to build a business and raise a family in a much harsher societal climate, to allow me to be the best I can be. I remember him teaching me lessons about having resilience, drive, and having the right motivation to succeed. Thank you, Dad. Deep.
Damn.
Do you know who said that?
Yeah, that was me, man. Damn. Yeah, that was... Oh, you got me, bro.
Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, cool. So obviously my dad's no longer with us. So he passed away back in 2000 when I was about 15. So back in school. But yeah, you got me, bro. I wasn't expecting that. I thought I was coming here having a bit of fun.
We'll get to the fun. We'll get to the fun.
All right, yeah.
But who is Waliur deep down, and maybe why?
God, you went deep, man. So who am I deep down? I think I am the youngest of a family of 7. I don't feel like the youngest though. Sometimes I'm the one that has to like manage all the politics in the family. And I'm telling off my brother who's 20 years older than me. I mean, saying it happens. I mean, right. So I think I'm someone who is, you could almost say like an alpha male.
Yeah.
That takes responsibility of his family, of his work, all of that kind of setup really seriously. But at the same time, I also recognize the role of my wife. And when it comes to, so we have, I would say, like a partnership almost, where there'll be things that I accept that she is
better at.
Or better leader. Like, bro, she's away for Christmas. She asked me to do bed sheets for it. It took me like half an hour. I can't do it.
So you outsource those things?
I would outsource that to her. But there are things that she's just going to take charge of.
Yeah.
And I accept that. And there'll be things that I take charge of. And she accepts that. And I think that's our kind of way we've managed our marriage.
Yeah.
I would say I'm a dedicated father to my kids, and I'll touch on later on, why I came out of the corporate sector, but actually I've got a better relationship with my kids. And by better, I mean, I'm just present.
Yeah.
I can go to their school concerts and their sports days and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think, being a positive influence on my children and being present, being available, all of that stuff is really important to me. Probably because my dad wasn't there for me when I was younger. He was there when he wasn't working, but he used to own restaurants. Yeah. Similar to you, actually, he used to own restaurants. Right? So you know the graph that goes in. So he was in the restaurant trade from the 60s. Came here as an engineer and then moved into the restaurant trade. So like we hardly saw him, but he was the bread owner, and all of that stuff. Yeah, it's crazy, right? So that family ethos is really important to me. So, I live with my mom. Yeah. I'm almost 40.
Yeah.
Right. You're already laughing at me.
No, I'm not laughing at you. I'm not laughing at you.
But I look after my mum. She's 7 years old. We're carers for her. We're not going to have to take her into a care home. Yeah. I mean, it's not easy, obviously. Like, she's got, dementia, and she's got her needs, appointments, all that kind of stuff. But that's instilled in me from a young age. She's looked after you when you're young and vulnerable. It's your duty to look after her when she's old and vulnerable.
You're listening to that, Mum.
So, so we've got guys coming in fitting carpets now. Yeah. And she's just so curious. She's like a child. She just wants to go in, and she's getting in the way, and she's chit-chatting with the guys, and they're like, we just need to get along. And I'm kind of like ushering my mum, Mum, let's go in, So it's almost like having another child in the family. That ain't easy. People say, well done, Wally. I don't feel like I'm doing a great job with it. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm struggling sometimes. But at the same time, it's rewarding because she values it and I know she appreciates it. But I see that as a sense of duty. That's my duty to her, to the house, to the family, all of that kind of stuff. And
we'll touch on some of the resilience as well a little bit later on. But just for 5 minutes, if we can go back, to maybe school time. Obviously, growing up as a Bangladeshi kid, how was that at school?
I went to a ghetto school, so I went to primary school, which was fine, quite multicultural. Yeah. Went through it, coasted through it well. I was okay at studying. I was, in the top quartile, but I wasn't the top A star student. I was probably in the top quartile. Academically, socially, I was quite sociable. I had friends, everywhere, which was cool. Secondary school, I think, is what defined me. There's certain characters. I was thinking about this podcast last night, and I was like, who are the people that had influences in my life in the stages? And my tutor was one of them, hands down. Mrs. Button, she is, to this day, that reverence that we have. Now I've got a family of like academics, you know, they're all like teachers, professors, blah blah blah, you know,
Yeah.
and they all like they're so proud of it, and I never really understood that until I came out of school and realised how much I valued my tutor, like the support,
Yeah.
the challenge, the kick up the backside, the nurturing. You know, there's so many facets to it. So, you know, I really appreciate when I hear someone's a teacher, because I see what they're not just there to teach them, you know, their academic studies. They're there for the whole kind of package. So I think secondary school was really defining for me. I was involved in all of the after school clubs, all of the extracurricular stuff.
So we'll get into some of the corporate roles that you've done, but maybe just touch on a few of the jobs that you had before the corporate world. Obviously, you know, work was, you know, we'll get into the motivation of why you wanted to work and graft and all that kind of stuff. But what are some of the jobs that you had before corporate?
Yeah, so school obviously shaped me. I was involved in, like I said, all the clubs and societies and all that kind of stuff. And different groups of friends, and I think that helped. But I didn't learn anything. Like, we didn't even know how to study, right, properly. Yeah. Like, we didn't really know how to study. So all of my friends went to one college, and I went to like 2 buses away. It was like on the outskirts of town, but it was a good college.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned to kind of really study. I became student union vice president, you know, did all of that kind of extracurricular stuff again. So I always did extra, right? I was really driven. By then my dad had passed away, so I was even more driven to, like, I don't know what I was proving. I reflect back on it now, and maybe I was trying to prove something to him. Yeah. You know, because I'm very driven. I don't know why I'm very driven. I've asked myself that question a lot. Yeah. So after college, went to uni, banged out uni, like, you know, people make their friends for life at uni, right? My wife made friends for life at uni, other friends did. I went to uni and I just smashed it out and came back to get a job. And I got a job. My first job was an education welfare officer. So I was also a trained youth worker as well. So I used to volunteer after school, after college. And I used to mentor young kids, you know, coach them, all that kind of stuff. So I got qualified. And that helped me get this education welfare officer role. So here I am, young, cocky, 21-year-old, walk into an office in the council with, you know, what was at the time majority 40-year-old kind of women, some going through menopause. And I didn't have a clue what menopause was. So coming from an Asian culture, it's not something we talk about. Now in the workplaces, it's a very real thing. People talk about it. It's like, yeah, we should spread knowledge. So I'm like, it's freezing cold out there. Why have you fan on? Are you crazy? Or why is your palm so sweaty? You know? And they're like, oh, I'm going through a menopause. I'm like, men what? They're like, come on, young lads, let me teach you about the life. So I learnt about drinking green tea and peppermint tea and all sorts of I think so. I had a lot of life lessons, I would say, working in the council. Yeah, I was there for a good few years. I saw some mad stuff. Like, we had child protection case conferences. I'd do home visits, and what got me, man, was there was a mum who'd overdosed, and I was looking through the letterbox and could see her baby just crawling through in a sore nappy, and there's like needles there, and that was hard, man. I was probably like 23 at the time, but that was tough. Like,
so it seems from very early on that you were someone that, you know, wanted to give back. You wanted to give up your time for people maybe less fortunate for you. Yeah. I
mean, I've done some crazy stuff, bro. Like, you know, setting up youth clubs, not youth clubs. Oh yeah, well, we did set up a youth club, Bristol Active Youth Service. It was run by young people, for young people. But before that, I had a football thing that I used to do, football training. That was pretty cool. Yeah. But it just came natural. It wasn't something forced. It was organic. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I've got to do this to get my name out or whatever. There wasn't an agenda there. It was just like, actually, let's do some coaching because we could all improve here. Yeah. And we did it. And we then, I went on a FA coaching thing, some FA junior coaching badge or whatever it was the school sent me on. So I was like, great, like, they've empowered with this. Let me bring it back to my community. And so whatever the drill was, we would try and apply it to the game at the end of the training session. Yeah. And everyone would look forward to the game. So yeah, we did stuff like that. That was cool. And then I did get involved in like Bangladesh Association after school club, so helping kids there. So yeah, I would say giving back was probably quite important to me. I don't know why. It was probably just something that's inherent. But I look at all my sisters; they all give back in some way as well. So it's something obviously clearly built into us.
So something interesting that caught my eye from 7 years ago. You actually posted this on your LinkedIn, and I just wonder. Because that 7 years ago was when you first started corporate, was it roughly? Started climbing the ladder.
Yeah, climbing the ladder about 10. Yeah, 7. Yeah, but I was in corporate sector for about 10 years.
For about 10 years. Something that you posted was, or one of the articles was 7 powerful morning routines of insanely productive people. And I'm just curious on, why that was. Is that because you already, were you always looking for self-development? Where what are your morning routines now? Do you believe in the cold plunge at 6 o'clock in the morning and all of this? Or do you like to just get up?
Okay, so this morning I woke up and I did a bit of, I don't know, I'm not like a Pilates expert or a yoga expert, right? My sister's taught me a few moves, that's it. But I did that and I felt good. I was ready for the day. I think it's driven from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Really, really good book. I think that was a game changer for me in the corporate sector. Just managing stuff. I was really big on self-development. I still am. I still believe in investing in yourself. I wasn't afraid of getting feedback and hearing negative things and then working on it. I didn't take it personally, to heart. I took it as right. It's a challenge. Yeah. So self-development was really important to grow. But yeah, I don't remember that post, man, 7 years ago. But I ironically I do want to get a planche pool because I play a lot of football still.
Yeah.
And obviously I want to prolong that and I want to be able to recover quickly and all that stuff. So yeah, I'd back that still.
So I've been cold plunging every morning for about 3 weeks now. And to be honest, the best part of the cold plunge for me is just, it's a bit cliche, everyone's saying this, but it's not so much the physical health benefits. It's more just, right, I'm going to do something that's hard for 3 minutes and set your day off. And whether it's placebo, whether it's whatever it is, I'm not sure what's happening. I do feel better when I get out of the cold plunge, but I'm doing one of the hardest things that I'm going to do that day. And that's why I personally like it.
That's nice.
So
have you got one of those, is it an actual full-on immovable thing, or is it one of those that you just
70 quid Amazon?
Yeah,
same benefits. It's
ice
freezing.
It's put a lid on it.
Not even ice at the minute because it's literally frozen when I take it off.
Oh, you're from up north, though, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm from up north.
I'm a Southern Ferry bro.
Yeah. So motivation. What motivates you now?
Motivation. So I talked about free time, buying back my free time. I think that motivates me a lot because I understand the value of your own time. I also started setting myself more KPIs. So look, I've been molded in the corporate sector. I've had targets and KPIs and all sorts coming out my ears all my life. So it's the way I'm built. So given that I'm built that way, I'm like, well, actually, let's apply that framework into my business, into what I'm doing now day to day. And one of the things that I started to, I have a performance coach that I talk to, and she was saying, you don't actually reward yourself. Like you achieve something big, you've achieved your biggest grossing month or whatever in your business, and you're like, yeah, all right, go to the next one.
I'm sure I've seen you with the Rolex on. So yeah.
So I'm not even that guy, man. I'm not even it's not even a, I don't know. Well, I did this thing called love language with my missus, right? Material possessions, I was 2% on. It's not that I don't value it. It's not even a thing for me. But she was like, well, what is it that you want as your first target? That's realistic. And I was like, well, I don't have a watch. All right, well, what's the best watch I can get, to make it to achieve that target? And so we started to set goals. So achieve the first target unlocks the watch. Do this, the second KPI that unlocks the car. Yeah. So I don't have a car. I need to buy a car. Or I need to earn that car almost. Yeah, I can go out and buy it now and blow the money on it, but I need to achieve it.
Yeah.
one day I want to box at the Emirates, right? But that's a target. That's on my list. That's one of the bigger.
I don't know why you'd want to box at the Emirates, but I can see the appeal. But just terrible club, terrible club.
Apart from being top of the league,
Isn't Liverpool top of the league at the minute?
when Arsenal win tonight, they'll be.
Okay. When this comes out, Liverpool will be top of the league. So we're going to dive deep into, the corporate sector now. Why do you think so many young men, typically, correct me if I'm wrong, but young men seem to want to be at the top, be the man with the suit, have the car, have the watch. They often come across very salesy, apprentice, Lord Sugar. Why do you think that is?
Sound like me when corporate sector. No. Why is that? I think there is it's culture, isn't it? It's what you are seeing. That's what the director, the guy who's achieving. He's got the corner office. She is the top of that department, or high achieving, has a good reputation. That's who I aspire to be like, and so you start to model your behaviour. That's how culture is formed, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of changing now in the corporate sector, I would say. So I remember when I was at Nationwide, when I started there, they had like a butler or something that would go to all the exec offices, and it was like very prestige. You could, if you were to the exec floor, and then we had a CEO come in, Joe Garner came, and he just got rid of all of that, and you could have the old office spaces became meeting rooms, and just got rid of that whole culture of it. So I think it's kind of changing, and like wearing power suits and all that. I had like 10 designer suits.
Yeah.
It's all gathering dust now. I'd rather just wear. I mean, if I'm wearing formal wear, just wear a blazer jacket and chinos. I'm more comfortable that way.
Yeah.
So I think from an imagery perspective, that's starting to change. I think COVID has helped that as well, because people are starting to work from home more and all that stuff. But going back to the original thing, that whole high achieving person wants to be quite salesy, quite they model their behavior on their bosses and their culture of that organization, what they what their senior figures are doing, and the people that they aspire to be.
What advice would you give to someone coming out of university now that wants to climb the corporate ladder?
Well, as you know, because I was big on self-development, and I took the feedback, let's say, and I would go out and get it. I would say I kind of went like this. If you were to look at like a graph, it went no, like that. All right. This isn't my advice. This is something I've heard and I've applied. I can't remember who it was, but whatever task you're given, whether it's a project, a task, a strategy that you've got to deliver, you do it like it's going to be like, to the best of your ability. You over deliver with, if possible, right? Even if it's a task.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to use a really silly example. You've come in, you're there to make tea and whatever, right? Make the best goddamn tea that you can do. Don't just be like, blah, 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 get it out. Like, do it meticulously, that you maybe get the water levels right, and the amount of sugar or whatever, and just get it done. And I'm using a really silly example, but get the task done to the best of your ability.
It makes sense, because I was listening to a recent podcast with James Milner, the footballer, and he was saying how even when he broke into the first team, he was very young when he started playing football in the first team. But even at the age of 18, I think he was, when he broke in, or 17, he was cleaning the first team players' boots still. And he said that he was going to be the best boot cleaner. And he attributes a lot of his motivation and a lot of his attention to detail to even when he was much, much younger. And he was the one that wanted to clean the boots. And he was the one that wanted to earn his way from the very bottom to eventually several caps for England and moving on.
Can I use that as an example? because this is, again, I talk about key figures in my life.
Yeah.
Rob Heaton is another one. My first boss at TSB Bank. Very, like, really supportive manager. He was a really supportive manager. And I was trying too hard, looking back now. And he was like, just be you. Like, you don't have to be like, all like, almost fronting. Just be normal, like be. And I think that, so go to what you said, that figure of bit salesy, bit this, bit that. I was probably that guy coming into TSB Bank, but Rob was just like, listen, dude, just be you, like be genuine. And I had to deconstruct how I'd been built when I got to TSB. Well, it was Lloyds Banking Group. We were working on the split of Lloyds TSB, and then I moved into the TSB bit.
Because now knowing you for a while, you don't come across as that stereotypical cocky, brash, money hungry. It seems like you say, maybe those were your motivations when you were just getting into corporate. I mean, you might not have got into corporate if the pay was minimum wage, but then you found more to life and more to, you probably found a why, and I'm sure we'll get into that when we get into your current business now.
Do you know, I'll just come on to that actually. I used to lie to myself. I thought I wasn't money hungry and Money was a motivation. Absolutely it was. Because I was earning good money. I was earning good bonuses. And you know, you want that next. But I was kind of lying to myself. So if you asked me this question 10 years ago, whenever, I've probably been, no, you know, it's all about self-development and but let's be honest, man. Like, I took the crap because I wanted to go up the ladder. But self-development was equally as important. And another thing that Rob said to me, actually, that was really interesting, using football as an analogy, he said, think of who you are in this whole department. What football player are you? Like, where are you in the football pitch? Like, who are you like? What would you liken yourself to? James Milner, as an example, wasn't he's not a Ronaldo, right?
No.
But he grafted.
Yeah.
And he worked hard, and he worked, you know, and that's why he's lasted so long. And I probably wasn't the best product manager, assistant product manager, whatever it was at the time. But I wouldn't liken myself to James Milner. I probably have more talent than him in the product space.
Natural talent. Charisma, all of that sort of stuff.
So I was probably, I still struggle with it. I do ask myself that question sometimes. What football player am I liking to? I wasn't a Ronaldo or Messi.
Are you a leader? Are you someone that likes being led? Are you a self-starter? Are you the hard work? You know, and it takes a culmination of 3 or 4 of these things to
exactly
be the best.
And I think all I needed was the right manager to unlock things. And then my leadership capability, all of that, I start to, I'm like.
So, again, something that I've seen was that when you were at Nationwide, you won an award named the Pride Award. Do you remember what that was for?
Ooh, God, you done some research on me, man.
The reason I say is because all of the things we've spoke about and all of the traits that you've got, it's no surprise that you won the Pride Award. I'm wondering if you know what the Pride Award was for.
Yeah, I delivered. Again, do you know what? I wasn't the best product manager in that department, I would have said. I was not coasting. I was very big on self-development, but I was improving, right?
Yeah.
And I delivered on this project. It returned a huge amount of money for Nationwide. I was looking after the life insurance products at the time. And we met like our 5-year target within the space of a year because I'd really got into the detail of the analytics, really understood the potential customer, how to target them. We ran campaigns, all that kind of stuff. I also simplified a very complex life insurance product. Again, you think that's really easy. Oh yeah, well, this, but it's a regulated product. There's so many loopholes you've got to go through. And it wasn't our product, it was run by Legal & General, so we had to work with Legal & General to get them to convince them to do it and go through their loopholes as well. So it was a huge amount of work to make the product a better product for our clients. And we knew it was a better product for our clients because we'd done a huge amount of research before that to understand their pain points, what they want, what they don't want, what's a gimmick, what isn't, all that kind of stuff. And I think when I was working at Nationwide at the time, the culture was very much so. I mean, I've worked for corporate companies, right? And you'd have a picture of the MD and be like, "We believe in blah blah blah," Nationwide had it in their veins, like it was their DNA to really care about what they call their members. It was, and that's why I still bank with. I've worked with those banks, but I bank with Nationwide. This isn't a promo for Nationwide, but they really cared, like about their customers, their members as they call them.
So I'd say that's pretty bang on in terms of what the pride was won for. It was for putting members first, rising to the challenge, inspiring trust, doing the right thing in the right way, and excelling at relationships. And all 5 of those things are probably your key values for the business that you run today. Which again, I've said it several times, but maybe when you step back and you look at, the articles I was talking about before, how you mentioned about your dad at the start, now, this award that you've won, it's kind of been a recurring pattern all the way throughout your career, from the ages of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up until now.
Damn.
Which I thought was really
That's
interesting.
fascinating. I've never looked at that. I mean, you must be absolutely...
It's the first podcast, so I've got to do something right.
You must be stalking that LinkedIn, man. I've always been like active on LinkedIn, so that's probably why it's all there. But that's mad.
Yeah.
Like I knew sense of community, sense of doing right, having integrity, all that stuff is just instilled. Partly that's faith, that's instilled that in me from a young age, and spirituality.
Yeah.
Partly that's just family values, taught from dad and mom and family, wider family, and then there's the drive. I don't know where the drive comes from.
Yeah.
Like I've asked myself the question.
So after Nationwide, I think you ended up at Bupa.
Bupa,
is that right?
Yeah.
Why the change in scene?
I'd achieved everything I could do at Nationwide. Nationwide was starting to change as a business as well. It was turning more corporate. What I found, why I stayed at Nationwide for such a long time, was it was a fine balance between like almost running as a social enterprise.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have shareholders, so there was a whole sense of purpose of doing good. There was a sense of, yes, you're making money, but you're doing it for the right things.
Yeah.
And obviously drive to achieve the best, and also mastery of your product area. Right? Well, I mastered it. I'd achieved awards. I'd achieved profit targets, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, okay, what's next? And Bupa actually approached me. So they similarly have very similar values. They don't have shareholders. They're a massive global company, as you know. And they came to be look after their financial services.
So at this point, is your life on the trajectory of what you wanted? Did you think at still this point, you've done how long at Nationwide?
About 4 years.
About 4 years. You've now gone to Bupa, and now are you thinking this is going to be me for the next 20, 30 years? Or is this still just another stopgap, some experience?
Waliur top tip, never stay in a role for more than 3 years.
Why?
Because you get stale, you get comfortable, and essentially you can start to become institutionalized.
Okay.
Right?
So, sorry to interrupt. If you're going to be scaling your business, what would you say to your staff when it gets to 3 years and they go, it's been 3 years now, see you later, Waliur?
No, not stay in a role, not in the company.
Okay.
So change roles.
Change roles.
Because it keeps things fresh in your mind as well. And in a corporate sector setting, somewhere like TSB where I worked, or what was Lloyd's TSB, but in the TSB side, it was just like you had to be jack of all trades. So you had to do lots of little bits. Whereas an established player like Nationwide, you had to have mastery of your narrow area. And 3 years is a good enough time to have delivered on a few things. Your first, there's a book called The First 90 Days. It's where you get your quick wins in, you get your kind of embedding. If you embed well, in your first 90 days, you should have a good career, you should have the good, credibility, reputation, all that stuff, and the stakeholders to help you to deliver. And then, year 1, year 2, year 3, and then actually, between year 2 and 3, you should be starting to think about where's my next step.
I think for anybody that's listening as well, that is wanting to get into the corporate sector and climb that ladder, what's the atmosphere like at work? Yeah. You said that Nationwide was an amazing place to work for. Is that all the way from the person that's making the tea all the way to the manager and the guys at the top?
Yeah, I'd say so.
And how would you say that Bupa compared to Nationwide in terms of their ethos?
So I agree. Nationwide had it in their DNA. Like, it was a very well established model, and Graham Beale, who was the previous CEO, had obviously established that. But he navigated the business through the credit crunch and all sorts, right? So he'd taken a pounding through all of that. Our cost to income ratio was flying through the roof. And, whilst that's not a great thing, the culture was phenomenal, and that was right from the CEO down. Joe Garner came along, who'd come from BT. He's now left, and there's someone else new in there. But he came in, he tried to keep the values, but he tried to make Nationwide more profitable. So, did new things, changed the culture, adjusted it, modernized it, all of that stuff. That worked for some, that didn't for others. They start to have redundancies and all that stuff, which was unheard of. So I felt it was starting to become more corporate in the sense of moving away from those traditional values that it had. Saying that, if you compare it to some of the other larger, players, its competitors, I would say Nationwide are right up there as a employer to work for. How does it compare to Bupa? Very similar values. I think Bupa, I would say, is more in tune with the old school Nationwide. So I definitely made the right move. I moved into the dental division of Bupa, and we had just taken over or bought out Oasis Dental. So it wasn't quite Bupa, but a Bupa badge on it. So we had to go through this whole cultural shift and driving the business to profitability, but also trying to enrich it with Bupa culture. And I was a good fit for that. And I led on what we call ED&I, Equality, Diversity, Inclusion, just as a side thing of my job, because Nationwide, culture and all that kind of stuff that I'd been brought up with. So I was a good fit for that. And that was called BU at Bupa. So it was a new initiative, and it's still going on now.
What 3 traits do you think you need to succeed in the corporate sector?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the first one that springs to mind, that is screaming at me, integrity. If you don't have integrity, man,
you get found out.
You get found out. You bring hot air. Your word is meaningless. Credibility is such a big thing in anything, right? Even in business. But corporate sector, if you don't have credibility within your department or within other departments, there's small businesses within a big business, if you like. In products, you're almost like, there's a saying, you're a mini managing director of your product area, because you are the middle person. If you own the P&L for that product, you are the mini MD for that, and you've got to make everything else work, working with marketing, finance, research and development, etc., etc. So if you don't have integrity with what you're doing, why would they want to work with you? Because I'm calling on favors. They'd have to work for, there's other product lines, right, that they're going to be prioritizing. And I had a smaller product, right? So mine was life insurance. Okay, life insurance was good margin, but it wasn't as much money making as, say, personal loans or credit cards or overdrafts or investment products. Do you know what I mean? So, but life insurance was the second biggest margin product. So I had to get more volume in because the margin was great. But why would people from marketing prioritize my work over loans or whatever, right? And that came from relationship building, having integrity. So
Integrity
is very important. The second one I would say is drive. And that, you talked about introverted people and extroverted people. We can still have drive regardless of what personality type you are, right? I think it's really important that you've got the motivation, the drive. You do what it, so this goes back to my own company values, integrity, trust, do what it says on the tin. We call it the Ron Seal effect.
Yeah.
So again, talking from my personal perspective, have drive, and make sure that you deliver on the stuff that you say you're going to deliver on, manage expectations well, all of that stuff. And the third thing I would say is do what you say on the tin, right? So if I say to you as my boss, I'm going to deliver that paper or that business case or whatever it is, or even if it's just a stakeholder, or even if it's someone that's a different department, and I don't deliver on it, again, it goes back to your credibility, right? Yeah. So deliver on the things that you say you're going to deliver on, and move hell on earth to do it, man.
Yeah.
And I've done that. I've done overnights.
I think that's going to be really useful for people listening, because there are going to be people that are right at the start of their corporate journey and might be getting into it for the wrong reasons. Yeah. And I think it's important to hear from someone that's been there and done it, so they can, prepare themselves on what it's going to take. And
yeah. So I spent a lot of time trying to establish what is it that I want to do. So I actually help new grads.
Soul searching.
Well, yeah, it's like career coaching.
Yeah.
So Nationwide sent me on this course to help people from minority ethnics because they weren't progressing as quickly as their white counterparts. However, they were probably more qualified, right? So why is that? Is it a cultural thing? Is it, etc. So they, and I showed an interest in it. So they sent me on this course to go and do, on top of my day job.
Yeah.
And there's a thing about having enterprise leadership. So again, one of the things I'd say to you viewers is don't just do your job. I talked earlier about do whatever the task or project or whatever it is to the best of your ability. If it's sharpening a pencil, make it the best sharpened pencil. Or if it's a project, make sure it is done to the best of your ability. In the same way, yes, keep that and do that. But then also, there's the thing about in a large corporate sector, having enterprise leadership. So that's doing extra, right? Mm-hmm. So I got involved, I talked to you about ED&I stuff, or BU at Bupa, or at TSB, it was helping to shape the culture of TSB. What is it that we want to be? Helping to organise the end of year events and all of that kind of stuff, right? Why did I do all of that? That was just me demonstrating over and above my little area that I was working in, that there's more to me.
Yeah.
But also I enjoyed it. And so it's shown enterprise leadership across the board. So I would say take those opportunities.
You've said that you feel like they really cared. So I'd be interested to know, do you think the owners and the founders really do care about their staff, or are you just a number? Are you replaceable?
That's a really good question.
Because you might feel like you are the guy.
Yeah.
Do they really value you how they make you feel?
So I'm going to sound a bit contradictory, right? But I'll explain why. In the corporate sector, you're just a number. Let's be honest. You're a payroll number. You are exchanging your time for money.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing. Yeah. And you've got to deliver on that what they're paying you to do. In a basic form, that's what it is.
Are you paid fair for the work you do?
I felt I was paid well.
Yeah.
As I worked up. Again, if you change companies, you could command a higher salary because they're employing. Think of it this way, right?
When I've got case studies.
Yeah. So here's an example, right? If I've not promoted someone from internally, okay, who is going to be a cheaper, okay, it sounds a bit raw, but they're going to be cheaper resource for me. Because if they've come from internally, so let's just say they've gone from an assistant manager to a manager, right? They're going to start on the bottom banding of that manager level, because if you think from a skills perspective, they've just got into that role. So they start there, and then with yearly pay rises, they go up and up and up. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's the concept behind it. If I've not found anyone internally for that, and I've now gone externally, I have to pay a bit more money, right? So switch it up from a candidate's perspective. If I've switched companies, let's say I'm now working in company A and I've moved to company B, well, I've got more negotiating power to ask for more money because you've not found the candidate internally. So you've gone outside of your company to recruit.
Yeah.
So I've got a bit more negotiating power, and I was very good at negotiating my salary, I felt. And so I feel like I was paid I would say a fair amount, mid to top quartile. Obviously I would do my research. I would use Glassdoor and all of that kind of stuff to see where I'm at, or what for that role in that region where that is. And so I would use that as a guide to help me to understand, what I'm worth. Remember, again, it goes back to, we're exchanging our time for money. So what are you worth in your mind? What is it that you would be happy with? If I was going to get a salary that I wasn't happy with, then I'm going to be staying that for long. I'll be there for a year and I'll be going, because I don't value what you're paying me.
Yeah.
So there's nuances there that you've got to think about.
So I did interrupt you a little bit there. So you would say you did feel valued there?
So going back to the question,
in terms of, are you just a number?
Yes. Simple answer is yes, absolutely, you are just a number. However, the working environment is more than just, you come in, you go, do your bidding, you go in. There's this whole thing about making you feel good about where you work. Now, look, we're all job slags now, right? Let's be honest. The whole years, the days of like staying in the company for 30 years is diminishing. Let's be honest. People aren't doing it.
Most of the time they stay in for 30 years. I mean, my uncle stayed in, he worked for Virgin Trains. He was there for 40 years, and I think they bought him a golf bag or something. So...
There you go. So I think that loyalty from a candidate's perspective is diminishing. And as the new generation who are just graduating coming in, they have more demands on what they want. I want to work from home. I want to this, I want that, So I think employers are adjusting to that. But at the same time, I don't believe that people staying for long periods of time is a diminishing thing. No. I think you can make people stay longer by creating a fantastic culture.
Yeah.
And by giving them good benefits and, making them see the value in all of that stuff. So it goes back to what I do my business, right? Which is, you keep adding value to the business. It's not just I come here for the salary. It's now, the holistic aspect. The management are good. I trust in the leadership. I like all of the benefits. I've got my healthcare. I've got my car. I've got da. So now,
you've given it all up.
Well, it's like, why would I want to leave? Like, it's a bit long to leave now. I might as well just, I'm enjoying it, and I've got, the dangling the carrot. So I feel like I'm being progressed in the organisation, and those are the things, the ingredients that allow people to, in my opinion, stay longer, or would influence people to stay longer.
Yeah, I think that's really valuable. So, Zealous, this is your third stop of the large corporate companies that you worked for. The fourth.
Yeah.
Why the change again?
So Zealous, there was a director of product role. Again, they approached me. I've been talking to them about 6 months prior, but I wasn't ready. Probably about 9 months, to be honest. But they approached me for a role, and I was like, it's there's not enough money in it for me. Sorry, But we just kept in touch because I think they're called resourcing manager. They're like an internal recruitment person. He was a good guy, and I was local, and obviously I'd worked for some of the biggest brands and had good reputation. So we just kept in touch, and then a director role came up, and there was a good fit, and negotiated, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it, man.
So I'm sure it's much of the same. It's much of the same traits that you need. You're still leading a team. We've talked about all of that, but you've been making money at this point, or a decent salary, well above the national average for 10 years by the time you'd finished. What had you been doing with your money? Had you been saving it? Had you been splurging it? Had you been investing it?
Yeah.
What were you doing with it?
Okay, so let me go right back. Yeah, this is going to be a long answer to a short question.
Yeah.
Right? So I talked about when I finished uni, it was just focused. Got my first job. I was earning in the council 25 grand a year. It's a good salary for a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
Back then in 2005, 5, 6, something like that.
Well, it's the national average now when you take out London. So
and we had pay rises every 6 months, right? So that went up to about 30 grand very quickly within a few, and the pay rises were good. Pre-credit crunch, remember?
Yeah.
So councils had money. So I was earning good money, right? I'd never seen that kind of money like in my bank account. I was a student, right? So I'm like, and do you know what? I had aspirations to buy a house and do this and do that.
Yeah.
Didn't do any of it. Splurged it.
Yeah.
Bought good clothes. I look good though.
Yeah.
Bought a nice car, a nice coupe. All of that stuff. And it was hollow, man. I worked there for, I think after about 2 or 3 years, I was like, I've got 500 quid in my savings. Like, obviously contribute to the household expenses.
Yeah.
So did my bit as a son, to my mom and all that stuff. But I didn't really save any money. I didn't achieve the investment aspirations that I hoped. I always knew, invest, put your money in stocks and shares, put your money in property, right? Bricks and mortars.
Yeah.
Didn't do any of that. So I was like, crap, okay, need to, So I moved out of the council and then worked for some kind of smaller education firms.
Yeah.
And I actually got made redundant from one. I worked for a national charity, and just before the credit crunch happened, they ran out of money, so I got redundant from there. I was like, oh my God, like, why do I not invest in things? So I needed a slap in the face to get me to get me to start investing and think about long-term future.
Yeah.
So that also shaped me in the sense of I was never going to be made redundant again and be without money. So those two things really drove me. That shifted my paradigm.
I think we're going to touch on that in just a minute after you finished as well.
Ain't no one like I'm taking back control. And that feeling of being made redundant. That's why when I hear occasionally on LinkedIn, I'll put a post up. When I hear my ex-employers, they're making their annual cull, they're getting, I'll put a post up because I feel it, man. And for some of them, they weren't ready for it, and it's just like a big slap in the face. And then
So when you started making a larger salary, at what point did you then go, right, let me start investing, let me start putting some stuff away? And were you, how long did it take you to get into that mindset? Because I know a lot of people would rather go spend 30 grand on a car and think that that's a great investment because it's going to be fun. You're going to drive a 30 grand car, it's going to be great. Or you can buy a house and it's going to pay you a recurring monthly income.
I did both. Bought the car,
Fun for a day.
Yeah, great, great for the first 2 weeks. And okay, now it's just a car and it's bloody expensive on fuel.
Yeah.
It didn't fill me with that fulfillment, right? The trigger was 2013, 10 years ago. I bought my first house. It was a great opportunity. I just did it.
Yeah.
I always wanted to anyway. Didn't know what I was doing. I was, managing it myself. Like all of the wrong things, all the things that you shouldn't do in property in terms of how to manage builders, how to manage tenants, all of that stuff I was doing wrong. But I took action.
Yeah.
So even if you don't have the right strategy or the right roadmap or whatever, if you just take action, you can still make money on it. I'm not emotionally tied to any of my properties, but that one is the one because it was like, that's day one,
Yeah, the catalyst.
That was a catalyst. So I bought the first property, mismanaged it for about 4 or 5 years. Back in 2013, so I was working in banking. I had a bit of money. When I was in the corporate sector, obviously I did start to save. I had better kind of saving habits, but inflation was still going above. Like inflation was still more than what I was saving.
Yeah.
And I hadn't realised then that I could make more money than what I would be getting in the bank, right?
Yeah.
Even through an ISA or whatever, right? So that hadn't unlocked in my brain yet, but I knew bricks and mortar was what I wanted to do. So I bought the house, mismanaged it for a while, but earned a bit of rent, £100 here, 70 quid there, but not really real money. And then it was only when I was at Nationwide, someone was leaving, and I was like, oh, it's quite ancestral banking, right? So, which bank are you moving to? And he was like, I'm retiring. I'm like, retiring, bing, 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 bing,
Yeah.
bing. Teach me sensei, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like, BRR, BTL, HMO. It just went all over my head, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have a Scooby-Doo, but I realized then I needed to change my mindset. Because I was that guy that was like, you know, I'm going to work till I die. You know, I'm
A hustler.
I'm a good worker. I'm going to work my way up.
A coach of mine actually said that it takes great confidence to take a day off.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's super powerful, because when you have confidence in your preparation, you know that you can take a day off and just pick it back up again. So having confidence to take a day off now always sticks with me. I always tell other people.
That's nuts, man. In Bupa, I remember, I had 0 days off. I remember in 1 year. I think that was during 2020.
Yeah.
No days off.
Great for your ego. Oh, great. I've done 365 days.
I'm a hard worker. I was like mentally, physically drained. That's kind of why I left for Zealous as well. Because I'd had enough. Because I was exhausted. I needed a new challenge.
So at 10 years into your corporate career,
Yeah.
on a scale of 1 to 10,
Yeah.
starting year 1, how happy were you? Year 1 of corporate, how happy were you on a scale of 1 to 10?
10 being fantastic.
Yeah.
5.
5.
Can I tell you why?
Why?
I was getting the recognition. I was at Metrobank and I was
Yeah.
working my ass off. Right? You know, they 7-day week, blah, 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 you know, climbing up, getting good reputation. I was in London. Didn't even enjoy London. I lived in London for 10 months or 2 months, whatever it was I was there for. I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because I was just working. So I literally, work was everything. So work was everything. And yeah, how can you enjoy it? That wasn't, like, I didn't have a life. Occasionally saw friends, but they all meet up and they're all wearing normal clothes. I'm rocking up in a suit because I've like rushed from the office straight to the dinner, you know.
So at year 5, where do you think you were on the happiness scale? 1 to 10?
5 again. Damn, man.
And then
Should I explain why?
yes, but in a second, because I think you'll be able to lead into it. Something that you told me off camera was, and I think this will surprise a lot of people that are listening, was you had to escape. You had to escape the corporate world. You told me over a voice note, actually, that I just had to escape. And I was thinking, escape? You had a great salary. You had, obviously, this is the materialistic things. Obviously, your family and stuff have always been a major priority for you, but you had a nice car, you have a Rolex watch, you can have holidays. On the surface, you've got everything that an 18-year-old would want when they get to 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, but yet you want to escape. Why?
So people hear 6-figure salary, they're like, whoa. When your mindset shifts, I talked about that time where that mindset started. I needed to work on that mindset, and I did, right?
Yeah.
And then it was like a light bulb moment. It was like, whoa. I started to look at the world differently. I remember I went on this course, nothing to do with property. It was just like it was called the Landmark Forum. It's very Americanized, but it used a lot of psychological techniques, almost, you could say, to really start to find your blind spots. So there's a thing called the Johari window, what you know about yourself, what you don't know about yourself, all that kind of stuff. But your blind spot is you don't know what you don't know. I won't get all technical about it.
You don't know what you don't know.
And so the blind spot is that, and it's searching for those things. Yeah. When I started to search for those blind spots, I started to know more about myself. And I realized then is I want to invest my way out of this. The reason why I want to invest my way out of this. So this was a plan from, I'd say 2015 is when that.
From the first house that you bought.
So first house 2013, didn't do anything. 2015, 2016 is when I started to. So I knew about it, but I didn't do anything about it.
So you were saying that 5 years into the corporate career, halfway through, you were still at a 5 on the happiness scale. That's because you maybe thought, or tell me if I'm wrong, you already kind of had one foot in and one foot out, because you knew from the first house that you bought that I'm not going to be doing this forever?
Nah.
No?
I thought the first house that I bought was, that'd be for my son or daughter when I eventually have kids, and I pass it to them, right? And that was the mindset, that would just be the one.
Yeah.
And that changed when I started to realize that as the light bulb moment happened. I went on some courses to start to change my mindset. Then I realized I can use property to unlock this lifestyle that I wanted. So that's the journey I went through.
Yeah.
I then, again, it's all mindset shifting. So I started, and it's done in phases. It didn't happen overnight. Only about probably 4 or 5 years after I bought that first property, I then realized, okay, this is the strategy I'm going to use to start, and I'm going to build a portfolio. And actually, I can retire on that, but that portfolio could be, take 10 years to build or whatever it was. So it's that point, 5 years into it, into my banking career, is when I realized it. But it wasn't 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I thought it was going to take me years. But I just did deals and I took action, had a vision, had a strategy, and laser focused execution. Oh, I had people, come bro, you can flip this property, or Ethereum, man, that's the next best thing.
The gurus.
Oh, there was so many things to like. Don't get me wrong, not hating on any of that, because I'm like, oh, actually, I could do. But if you're focused on that one thing to get there, I call it laser focused execution.
Instead of getting the shiny penny.
Yeah, it kind of what's the word?
Snowballs, yeah.
Snowballs, and it compounds, and it just like, and that's what got me quicker. So by the time I'd started working at Bupa, I was still working on my property stuff, like massively. And when I got to Zealous, it was like really snowballing.
Yeah.
And that's why I was able to quit my job. And so I gave up a 6-figure salary.
Yeah.
And I just quit. Because I was earning enough now, earning the same as I was from my salary.
Yeah. So, corporate career is done. You've done everything and achieved everything that you thought you could achieve. But tell everybody, what was next. And obviously you've started a property investment consultancy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, take the floor.
So I always wanted to be that guy, right? I always wanted that director role. Finally got there, right? Worked my little socks off, got there. And it was just, there wasn't anything.
Anticlimactic?
Yeah. So when I was in banking, you want to be that guy, or you want to have that responsibility. You get there and you're like, well, you still have a boss. You still got targets, didn't you? You're still working for the people.
Still can't sleep in.
I was making millions of pounds for these companies. I wasn't making millions of pounds in my pocket. Bringing a good salary. Yeah. They're giving me a good salary, but I wasn't making the money that I was making then, so it was quite, how shall I put it? Like almost like the shackles were off. Like I felt like something had come off my neck. It was a really weird feeling because I still get imposter syndrome. I'm 18 months, 2 years? I can't remember how long now, 18 months since I quit properly. I still get imposter syndrome, man. Like, because the system is ingrained in me, because that's all I've known since school. Since primary school, you taught, you work, you do your education, you work, you pay into the system, you retire, you get a pension from the state.
But it sounds like you get excited by that imposter syndrome.
Oh, I don't know, man. But
because having imposter syndrome for a lot of people will mean that they don't want to do the thing that's giving them imposter syndrome. Whereas I think a trait of a lot of entrepreneurs is, I'm getting imposter syndrome, that's going to allow me to grow, so I'm going to do it, even though I don't want to do it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I not really thought about it that way. Yeah.
So I think
use it to drive me.
Use it to drive you.
Yeah.
Whenever you feel like you don't belong there, you're probably in the right room. You know how they say that you never want to be the smartest in the room. Always search to be the person in the room that you don't belong in, or you don't feel like you belong in?
It's interesting because I'm very comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that comes from maybe this whole drive for personal development.
Yeah.
But I'm very, like I said, happy to be uncomfortable, to be pushed, pulled. And that goes to what you just said there. Yeah, I'm happy to be in a room that I don't belong in.
Yeah.
And be very confident and comfortable in that. Yeah.
So dive into the business model.
Yeah. So, quick job. Hurrah! Yeah. I'm free and I can live free. And that lasted 24 hours and then I started. Sometimes they ask, why the hell did I do it, man? So
we're going to get onto that as well in a second. You saying, why the hell did I do it?
Yeah. I don't say that all the time. Sometimes when it's like, oh my God, this is like lol. So I create this model whilst, obviously when I bought my first one, went through the mindset shift, and then I start to like, educate myself and build and build and build.
Yeah.
And that allowed me to create almost like a conveyor belt. Mm-hmm. So I could buy it, using the technical BMV, below market value. So I was finding property that was cheaper than the market. I was able to add some good builder contractors now. Don't get me wrong, I'd been ripped off by them. I overpaid for property. I did all of the mistakes, right?
Yeah.
But when you've made that mistake with your own cash, you could bet your second dollar you ain't gonna make that same mistake again when it's your own money.
You've gone from handling large amounts of money that's not yours to all of a sudden handling your own savings that you've worked hard for the last, since you were younger, but the last 10 years where you've been making, good money.
That's crazy, isn't it? And some people, this is where that mindset comes in. Some people, so I've got clients now that, I don't know. And you've got to have the mindset for it. You've got to have the balance of risk and reward. So, so I had the mindset for it. I was happy to take calculated risks. Remember, I manage regulated products. So I'm about growing, but growing safely.
Yeah.
So I've got this great model that has allowed me to turbocharge financial freedom. And I'm like, hang on a second, I can help people as well. So I start to people come for advice and guidance, and I tell them, and they go and screw it up anyway. So I'm like, well, and it wasn't for money, it was just to help people. So I was like, well, actually, I can do this for them. So I started this company, this business, to basically help people do what I've done, to build a property portfolio, essentially. So that's our mission, is to basically help people achieve financial freedom by building property portfolios.
So when people hear financial freedom, they like go, oh, look at this guru, financial freedom. And I think it's a term that a lot of people, myself included, when I first heard it, I thought, oh, well, financial freedom, it's all right for the millionaires out there. But, tell the people what financial freedom really means.
Yeah. So there's the YouTube financial freedom, what you'd see on all these, all these, not podcasts, but, shorts and all that kind of stuff. In reality, for me, what that means is basically having time. Like, I bought time back. Remember, I was exchanging my time for money, and now I don't need to do that because I'm earning passive income. And that allows me the freedom, the time to spend time with friends, family. And you know what? Like, I've reconnected with my family, man, like extended family. Like, I've gone to America like the last 2 years. I've got to go again this year because I've got my whole mum's side of the family up there. I would have missed weddings and this and that and get-togethers. And like, I'm talking a massive number of people. And now I can reconnect with them. I'm there, I'm present. The WhatsApp groups buzzing. Yeah. Same with Bangladesh. Like, I always try to go regularly, but I can just get up and go. So it's that freedom to do what you want.
It's to have enough money passively that it doesn't have to be passively, but to have enough money that pays all of your essentials. So your shopping, your mortgage, maybe your car payments, have all of that covered so that, which buy a property portfolio for you, that you don't need to worry about it.
Holidays as well.
Holidays. Yeah.
about what you value the most. So when I sit down with clients, I'll sit down and I don't even talk properly with them. You know, I'll talk about, well, what's your vision? Like, what is it? What's the end game? Like, what is it that you want to achieve? What does life look like? And take them to that place, because that's what I did, and that's what helped me to like get there. So that vision of like tunnel vision of, all right, that's the lifestyle that I want. Now, don't get me wrong. If I wanted a private jet and this and that, I'd have to build even more and more and more, right? But the lifestyle that I wanted was to reconnect with extended family, was to have the freedom to go and spend quality time with friends and family. It was the ability to basically not have that on my neck. And now this business obviously has started to help people with similar aspirations.
So what are some of the reasons why someone would choose to work with you? Because there might be people listening there there might be some people listening, that just think, well, I'll just go to Rightmove, I'll just get a property, I'll put a tenant in it, or I'll spend 10 grand on it and I'll sell it for a way higher profit. Why would they choose to work with you?
It's a good question. If they are that way inclined, fantastic. They're not my clients that I want to convince to come and work with me, right? Yeah. The people that are coming to work with me are people similar to myself who are when I was in the corporate sector, time poor, because commitments to family, because commitments to the job. Mm-hmm. But I take myself back to that time where I wanted to build the portfolio, and I could have gone a lot quicker if I had the guidance. It would save me from losing a huge amount of money because I made those mistakes kind of going through all that. Well, what I'm basically there to do is help them mitigate some of those risks and mistakes and turbocharge that aspiration to build that portfolio. Once they got there though, they don't have to necessarily quit their job. If they really love what they're doing, that's fine. It just means you've now got passive income to have the option. So if you were made redundant tomorrow, cool, I've got income coming in, I'm good.
Okay, so why do you think people should invest when they can? Yeah. And when is the right time to invest? But also, what are some of the reasons why clients tell you they want to invest?
So if I take myself back to 21, 22-year-old Waliur, who was earning decent money, could have built up a pot of money, but was blowing it.
Yeah.
Do I look back and be like, that was a good time? No. Do I look back and think, man, you idiot? Why did you blow all of that on restaurants and this and that? I didn't even enjoy the food, man.
Yeah.
Do I have anything left from that? No. Yeah. It's all down the gutter. So goes to the second point, which is, when is the right time to invest? Now is the right time to invest. It's never the wrong time to invest. I've never worked with anyone that said, oh man, I wish I'd waited later to invest. Everyone always says, I wish I invested earlier.
So obviously interest rates are high, inflation is high, property prices are high, and you're saying that now is the best time to invest. Why?
Well, we're picking up the best possible deals that we've ever done, right? So like crazy, people that would have laughed us out of the room, right?
Yeah.
We're now coming in with lowballs offers and they're considering it and they're taking it if they want a quick sale. And the reason being, if you think of it this way, right? Yes, okay, the mortgage rate might be high, but the actual amount borrowed is a lot less. So that equalizes because your cost price of that purchase price of that property, would have been a lot higher before. Mm-hmm. But now because we're getting properties at a lot lower purchase price, the amount borrowed is less. So even though the mortgage rates are higher, your actual amount that's coming out of the account is give or take 20 quid.
Yeah. And I think something that a lot of people don't think about, we see inflation as a negative thing. Inflation is a terrible thing at times, but it can also be a godsend for people that have property. Why is that?
Rents. So rent goes up, man. So, again, you don't want to be completely feasting your tenants, because if you've got good tenants in there, you want to make sure that they've got a good home, a good quality home, and you're investing it in the right way. and you're fixing it in a timely manner if there's any repairs. But, you know, when the contract comes to an end, rents will increase in line with inflation.
But also, with any debt that's on the property, if you're leveraging yourself 75, 25%, a typical buy-to-let mortgage, that debt is always going to stay the same, isn't it?
Yep.
Whereas property prices are going to go up.
That as well. So your capital of that property, if you're buying a house, absolutely, as you just said, will continue to go up. Where, I mean, I'm buying kind of Southwest and South Wales, right, for myself. Primarily, that's where I built my portfolio. You know, they would say 5% year-on-year growth is good. I've seen much more than that.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking north of 10+%, and that's like your typical buy-to-lets. That's not with a, you know, with a refurb to push the price up. Yeah. I'm talking just growth of stuff that I'm not intending to refinance and take any money out.
But that is the reason why you would recommend people to buy with a mortgage, because over time, inflation is going to pay off the debt. You aren't going to need to necessarily have that pot there. We know that property prices go up over a 10, 20, 30, 40-year period. So the debt is going to be eroded by the inflation.
Yeah, exactly. So use lending, but also what lending does is it makes your money go further. Yeah. So you're basically leveraging, you know, the whole leveraging other people's money to, you know, and that's what you're doing. You're leveraging the bank's money. Let's be honest, right? I've been in banking. The bank always wins, right? So if you can leverage the bank's money for a win-win situation to allow you to start earning passive income, fantastic. It's a win-win for everybody.
So I come to you, I want to, let's now see, like, how does it work? Let's put the package together. I've got a little bit of a grasp of, you know, the business model. Well, obviously I already know the business model, but for the people listening, I come to you, Waliur, I've got 75k. I've worked really hard for it. I want to drop 1 day at work, 2 days at work. I want to build a property portfolio. You're the man to do it. Let's work together. What are we going to do?
So I think the first step would be, what we don't do is, we're not property sorcerers or deal packages, right? Because that's a very transactional relationship. So that would be like, here's a deal. Do you like it? No? Okay, here's another deal. Do you like? And it's exhausting for both sides. But don't get me wrong, it works for certain people.
There's a lovely saying, what is it? If you throw enough shit at the wall,
something will stick.
Something will stick, yeah.
And so that's not what we want to do, right? So I met with some, it sounds too highbrow, so I won't name check and stuff, but you know, these are CEOs now of banks, so they were old bosses from 15 years ago, who are now like in really senior roles. And I remember having a conversation with them and about how to build this business. And they basically were saying, long story short, you know, don't be looking at it in a 5-year or a 10-year, you know, cycle, you know, how you do a business plan. Look at it in a 100-year cycle. So we're looking at how do you build, not in terms of like in 100 years after I died, okay, it's going to be passed on to my children. It's how do you build a world-class proposition? How do you add value in the whole end-to-end journey, you know? So I put my product hat on, right? The way I look at it is I spent 10 years in the banking sector where they've paid me to coach me and mentor me with all this knowledge. Well, I'm going to take that knowledge and I'm going to apply it to what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So we look at the customer pain points in the whole end-to-end journey, and we find solutions for it. Yeah, we don't necessarily need to be paid on every bit in the added, you know, where we're adding value, but clients should come in feeling that the money that they pay for any fees is like so worth it that it's, you know, I'm getting so much more value than what I'm paying for.
So I've decided that you are the man. We know why you're the man. Now let's talk about some of the nuts and bolts. Okay. So I don't know how to find a property. I definitely don't have a trades team. You know, how do I get this through the conveyancing process?
So we would start the process with really understanding your vision. So forget property. Property is just a vehicle, right? What is it we're trying to achieve? Yeah, like with anything, you know, in business strategy, like you need a vision, a mission, you know. I used to think that was the fluffy stuff until I started to get into those roles, but it isn't, man. That's what drives you. So we spend time understanding that. What's your attitude to risk? So I've taken the model from like what IFAs use, independent financial advisors or financial planners, and they spend a lot of time at the front end really trying to understand all of that stuff. And I've basically taken that and applied it to property because, well, their vehicle is stocks and shares, ours is property. So if you've got a system that ain't broke, you know, so but I've adapted it obviously. So essentially, really understand the vision and help them flesh that out. Then their attitude to risk. Then we've now got the ingredients to work out what the strategy is and how we're going to get to that vision. So we would spend time doing that. And once we've established that, I would then I've sent them some videos to basically help them to kind of, everyone's on different levels of knowledge. Some might have gone on courses, some might not have, but it just basically equalizes everyone's knowledge to that point. And then it's a case of, you know, agreeing, okay, this is the plan, this is how we're going to box this off, and this is the timescales that we're going to work towards. And then off we go. And so as soon as we've signed on the dotted line and, you know, like cleared invoices and whatever, we essentially kick off the process with taking your requirements, so almost like business requirements. What are the requirements of that client? That will go out to our operations team. They would then work with sourcerers and agents and, you know, people in the industry.
Vendors.
Vendors meaning like people who want to sell a property. And we would run marketing campaigns to do that as well. So it costs us quite a bit of money. And then we would find a property to their exact spec. So it's more.
So you're matching the property with what I've asked for, basically. You know, so I'm going to tell you exactly what I want. You're going to go out and find it.
Exactly. But you might not know what you want. Yeah. Right? So that's my job to help navigate all of that to work out, well, based on the vision that you have and the strategy that you're thinking, this is how we're going to basically get to that. And it might be, again, I'm just making it up, but it might be, okay, well, we're going to build 5 buy-to-lets and then we might do some service accommodation because they're higher grossing but higher risk, but we can take a bit more risk because we've got a number of buy-to-lets that's just going to keep grossing some money.
So you found me the property, then what happens after that?
So we find property found, ding, 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 you know, and then we basically kick off the legal process. So you may need lending on it. So we've got different options for lending. So again, I've got partnership agreements with professionals across the board to help with that buying experience. Obviously, if you've got your own people, that's fine. But we've got people to help with bridging, with Sharia compliant halal finance, with normal mortgages. So I'd refer you across to them. The agreements with them is they would basically be in touch with you within 24 hours and they will be basically quoting up and helping you with that. Now, because we've done so many, we work absolutely, there's a strong synergy there. We have bi-weekly meetings to check on cases and all that kind of stuff. So lending would kick off, whichever way you're going to do it. Then you're conveyancing. So we work with a number of solicitors again, trusted, vetted solicitors, people that I've used myself, because until you've gone through it yourself, you can't really vouch for them.
It's impossible to find a good solicitor. So if you've got them, keep hold of them and don't tell anyone else who they are.
Top tip. But in all honesty, like, you know, solicitors can take time, and I think the longer term plan for this business is to bring people in house, so we've got control of it.
Don't tell us what the long term vision is just yet. Don't tell us what it is just yet.
So yeah, we've got I mean, there's lots of plans, but I'll touch on it later. But yeah, so yeah, solicitors to help you to buy the property.
Okay.
And they'll help. And again, I've got bi-weekly calls with them to help manage all of that.
So at the minute you've found me the property, you have set me up with a mortgage broker, so the finance is taken care of. You've also negotiated the property and got me a good price on it. Obviously, I don't want to be overpaying for that property. You have set me up with a solicitor who is going to manage the progression of the legals. I've completed on the property. Then what happens?
Now to the biggest pain point of all of my clients when I talk to them about what is your biggest pain point? working with builders.
Right.
So what we do is we've got a number of building firms that we work with, larger scale building firms. We don't work with man in a van because if he goes off sick, then project grinds to a halt. They will actually provide a schedule of works right at the front end. So when we actually agree the property, they will come with us to basically quote up, and we'd understand what the costs are then of the deal. So at that point, the property's complete. Ideally, completes on a Friday, they pick up the keys on a Monday, and then we start the refurb process. So that we try to reduce void periods. So we obviously project manage that. We've got project managers in-house to do that. And they would essentially work to the schedule of works.
Okay.
And our job is to project manage all of that to ensure that the client is getting weekly updates. We're working through any of the kind of issues, and we're reporting back, obviously, anything that comes up and how we're solving those problems.
So the property is refurbed. It's a lovely spec. It's ready to rent out. Are there any other stages?
Yeah, what I'd say is though, always scrimp on the property price, invest in the refurb, because it's the refurb that's going to get you end value. It's going to get you your higher rents.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where people have, where we've broken process and they said, oh, could we not do this, not do that, not do that? Later on, they end up paying for it every time.
Yeah.
They end up paying for it through a lower end valuation.
Yeah.
They end up paying for it through extra things that have now gone wrong, or more damp that's been found because we didn't do the work properly, because we took shortcuts on it because the budget was cut.
Yeah.
So just invest in the refurb. That is so important because the job gets done properly.
Yeah.
And then it's, the third thing is you don't then have to be going back to it to...
I guess it's future-proofed, isn't it?
Yes.
You don't need to touch that property again for, hopefully
Years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Whereas otherwise it's going to be 500 quid here, 500 quid here, £1,000 here, £1,000 here.
Yeah.
And then at least you can just put everything into one larger refurb and it's sorted.
And you'll get your money, most of your money back out. So once the refurb's done, we'll then look to get it let out if it's a letting, or if it's obviously looking to be sold, then obviously we'll work with the agents to do that. So we've got established agents that we work with in South Wales that will let property or will sell it. And they again work with the building firm, and they'll work with us right at the start of the process, where they'll provide independent valuations as well. So what we don't do is, Waliur's opinion is the done up value of this property is going to be whatever. We'll have an indication based on software, but we'll always use an established local agent to provide us with an independent quote.
And then are we, well, not me, but then is the client then supposed to find the tenant themselves to put in the property, or are you able to help with that as well?
Exactly. So that's what the estate agent will do. So they will, if it's going to be rented out, they will then take care of that side of it. Again, we're involved in that whole process, hand holding them throughout it to kind of mitigate time that they spend going back and forth, but also managing through any issues. So I don't know, the agent comes in, they're like, oh, it's a bit of a snag there, that plug hasn't been put in properly. Well, she just needs to come to me and I'll deal with it with the builders. They don't need to go and tell the client. We can deal with all the minor stuff.
So the clients are paying for you to take on all of the headaches of the chasing the solicitor, chasing the broker, making sure the finances, making sure that all the finances with the builders and paying the builders their payments on time, and just making sure that all of this works like clockwork. And that's what they're paying for. They're paying for
basically a completely tailor-made, bespoke, end-to-end handheld package.
Yeah.
So if we're finding property with a big enough discount, they've already covered the cost of my fees, right?
Yeah.
Big tick. So now it's basically free. I'm a free resource for them. And then it's all the other bits. So one thing we did miss out, what we've recently started to do is the other pain point was accountants and banking.
Yeah.
So once they've incorporated, some people want to incorporate their business, buying company. Sometimes it's a pain in the backside to open a bank account. So we've done a deal with Metro Bank where they'll open a bank account with them within 3 days SLA, and that's a written agreement we've got with them.
So the fee is basically in the discount anyway.
Yeah, and
but
all
on
the
top
headaches.
of that, all of the headaches,
That's
on top of that, they've got access to your whole power team, all of your connections.
Yeah. we call it the ecosystem, right? So the whole ecosystem is
it's a done for you service.
Yes, and it's basically built to take all of those headaches away.
Yeah.
One, to go back to what I was saying before, because they are time poor, because of family, because of work. They don't have the time to. I'm sure they can go and build the knowledge and all of that and do it themselves. But the idea is we're saving them money from the cost of, the actual price of the property, but we're also saving the money from mistakes.
Yeah.
And also, and that's an intangible thing. You can't see it, right, until you do it. And then the third thing is the headache of dealing with builders or dealing with solicitors and mortgage people. We will take that headache away, and it just becomes a really streamlined process.
I've got the last few things that I want to ask you. Obviously, I've seen that you're doing a little bit more work and giving back and helping your community within your business now, just like you were talking about when you were younger and in the corporate sector.
Yeah.
Now, in your business, I think you're doing some work with the local mosque.
Yeah, so
which looks exciting.
Yeah, Imam approached me. He said, "Look, can you now you've quit your job, when you're going to come and help us with, the structural work?" And I was like, "Oh man, you stuck it on me."
Yeah.
So more than happy to help and support local community projects, and especially a prayer. Obviously, me being from a faith and spiritual background, happy to support them with it. And essentially what we're doing is refurbishing the complete outside of this mosque. It looks really run down. Like it looks like it's graffiti and it's metal doors, really uninviting. It's not a great place for sisters. You've got these like dark stairs into this dingy room. No wonder they don't get anyone there. Yeah. So it's like, how do we have that consultation with them? And
but you see potential in that, whereas other people would just see a dingy, dark building.
Yeah.
You, with your developer hat on, and the partner that you're working with, obviously sees something that can be turned into something beautiful.
Yeah. So look, obviously the architect that we're using is, again, in our ecosystem that we work closely with. So he's come in and we've basically worked out how we can architecturally make that space a better space for worshippers, but also not just for worship, but also for like community stuff, whether it's just bringing people together and helping with the objectives of the mosque, which is helping to help those suffering from mental health, or helping those with they're going through some stuff and having a safe space for them. So there's all sorts that we can start to do now, which wasn't accessible, doable before, because the space wasn't quite inviting, quite right for them.
What do you think your dad would think of you doing this?
Do you know what? I haven't even thought about Pops, man.
Obviously, helping other Muslims in the area.
Yeah, just helping the wider community, because it's obviously that's a very specific project for Muslims. I think he'd be very proud of that.
Yeah.
Because he was, but also helping just wider community, because he had it in him as well. I think he was the Bangladesh Association that was set up in Bristol. They called it Bristol, Bath and West.
Yeah.
He was one of the founding members. He was the first treasurer. So he had it in him. And I look at that with pride, more pride than his entrepreneurial career, So I think he'd be really, really happy with me giving back and not just being greed, money. It's about holistically looking at your life as a whole.
So, last couple of things. Where do you cover? Where do you cover for this property business? Where can people, where's your main area for investing for you and your clients?
Yeah, so literally the same space. Where I have invested is where I'm specialising for my clients. So essentially that's South Wales and Southwest of England.
Okay.
I know the patch really well because I've done it myself. So, and that's allowed me to get to this point. And so it's I know certain areas by streets. I know it to that level of detail. We've got lots of data on it as well. But that will grow as well. I mean, that's where I specialize in, but I have partners UK wide where we get access from Scotland all the way down to Poole.
Yeah. Last thing, you can have a minute if you need to think about it. Where does Waliur see himself in 10 years' time?
What's my 10-year plan? Goodness me, that's a good question. I see myself definitely still helping people. I get a lot from it, right? Again, it's an inherent thing, clearly. I think I'd be stepping away from the day-to-day operations of this business. I'd still be involved because, yes, it's a business, but we're helping people build wealth. We're helping people with an objective. So I'd still be involved more strategically and guiding that, navigating that ship.
Because you're looking at scaling the business, aren't you?
That's right.
And you're bringing a few people in that can really help you facilitate the amount of people that are wanting to work with you.
Yes, exactly. So, we want to go national, but we've got to conquer our patch first. We've got to do, amazing stuff there. And that will then lead to working with partners UK-wide to become a national organisation. And that needs, strategic guidance, ability to navigate that ship at that level. I can't be in the weeds doing operational stuff, etc., etc. So you need to build the capacity in that business.
I did tell a little bit of a lie. I've actually got one thing that I want to elaborate on. And I think it would be useful to know for people listening. Have you done all this on your own, or have you got a mentor? Have you got somebody that's, guiding you now? It's your business, but is there somebody that's showing you the way, or maybe helping you grow, or maybe strengthening your weaknesses in different areas?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time people hear mentor. I don't need a mentor.
Yeah, or I've got to pay for that mentor, and I'll forget that. So I've had different mentors for different things, right throughout my career, from corporate sector to even now. Some I paid for, some I haven't needed to because they're just doing it at the, they're established. Mm-hmm. So some mentors have helped me to unlock things in my mindset. Some have been more for longer term things. So you can have very specific things that a mentor helps you with, or more broader things. I'm working with a chap called Liam Davies, who I'm on a program with, who's helping me with that kind of growth, scaling up, building things bigger. He's essentially helping to unlock those, key stakeholder and strategic problems to build capacity in that business to grow it and scale it.
Because I think sometimes if you're the one that's in the day-to-day operations of the business, sometimes you might need somebody that's just a fly on the wall and can pinpoint the areas that might need a little bit of work. So it seems like Liam's kind of the guy that's come in to do that and watch from a distance and kind of let you know, right, this needs done here, this needs done here.
Yeah, I've worked with management consultants throughout my career, and I've always found value in it. And essentially, it's a very similar thing. But I've got him as a almost permanent management consultant, but also helping with the marketing side as well, and that's really helping. And I guess the future is that I'll be looking to partner with Liam, so we'll be merging or partnering, and that's really, I genuinely believe that will be one of the key aspects to unlocking, really big growth.
I just wanted to touch on that because I think a lot of people think that having help or asking for help or allowing somebody to help, obviously you've always been the manager, you've now got your own business, to be able to say, actually, no, I can listen to somebody else. It's still my business, but maybe there can be somebody that comes in and helps you grow. I mean, there's a saying in property that collaboration is better than competition. And you can grow 5 times faster by collaborating with the competition rather than seeing them as competitors.
I call it the win-win-win, right? Which is there's a win for the client ultimately, because you don't have a business if they're not winning.
Yeah.
There's a win for you, and there's a win for your competitors / partners / collaborators, because now everyone eats, and so you'd rather have, you know, a piece of a bigger pie than, you know, all competing for that one slice of pizza, right?
Yeah. Right, Waliur, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where can people find you? Where can people book in a call with you? Where can people, what's your social media? Tell the people.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, so Waliur Rahman.
Look in the camera.
LinkedIn, Waliur Rahman. Instagram, Waliur Rahman Property. But yeah, look, let's drop me a DM if you've got any questions. I'm more than happy to help people on different paths on their journey to investing.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, bro.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.